here this evening to mark the end of 2024, a year with more than its fair share of tragedies. In Europe, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has continued unabated, with more missiles, gliding bombs, and other barbaric weapons being rained upon our neighbors. I'm proud that my country remains steadfast in its support for Ukraine and increased its military and humanitarian assistance. Romania remains determined to contribute more than its fair share to our collective security. And I am encouraged by the latest steps the European Union took to enhance our foreign and military policy coordination. It is not the role of the Romanian Crown to comment on political matters. Nevertheless, it has always been the mission of the Crown to protect and promote our national interests. In this spirit, I would like to make a few observations about the current controversies affecting my country.
În acest moment, Majestatea sa pune degetul pe rană.
The first is the tendency of some of our public figures to cast doubts on the benefits Romania derives from its membership in the EU and NATO. Of course, questions such as how these two organizations function and how they could operate better are legitimate political discussion topics. Yet, what I find bizarre is the idea that somehow Romania can pick and choose how much or how little it gets involved in such institutions, or the argument put by some people in Romania that we may be even better off or do much better by being outside these institutions altogether. Let me be very clear on this. At no point in its modern existence has Romania enjoyed a higher level of security and better conditions for economic prosperity than it does now, as full members of both the EU and NATO. Anyone who argues that we could somehow do better by becoming the so-called difficult child inside either NATO or the EU simply does not understand how these organizations work. And any politician who suggests that Romania could somehow prosper outside these institutions is merely condemning our nation to poverty and to servitude. The second troubling development is growing evidence of foreign interference in our electoral process. Again, this is a broader phenomenon, not only confined to Romania. I welcome the European Union's initiatives to tighten the regulations on social media platforms during electoral periods. All governments of democratic countries must get better at preventing such destabilization measures well before they occur. What we suffered in Romania over the recent few months is what our Moldovan brothers and sisters were subjected to for years. So we could have learned from them and been more rapid and more efficient in our responses. And finally, I hope our public authorities see this current cycle of elections for what it is: a cri de cœur, a passionate cry from the hearts of voters who feel ignored and neglected by our current political system. Yes, our national aggregate economic development has been fast, but it has also been uneven. We have well-paid professionals who travel the world, but half-empty villages where pensioners can barely afford their daily food. We invest in wireless technologies. However, we have the lowest spending on healthcare in the EU. Let us treat the latest elections as a wake-up call. All countries whose economies grow fast generate inequalities. The task now is to reduce such disparities by investing more in social services and developing specific social and economic inclusion policies. This means that all of us should spend less time in our Bucharest offices, isolated from the daily lives of our people. And it also means that we must engage differently with our large diaspora. It's no longer sufficient just to offer them free consular services and forget about them until we come asking for their votes a week or so before elections.
Republica Moldova, fosta provincie Basarabia, ruptă din trupul țării în urma pactului Ribbentrop-Molotov, nu este omisă în niciun mesaj regal.
I do not wish to leave you with the impression that I'm pessimistic about our nation. Quite the contrary. Our country remains strong. Its institutions are questioned, but they are functioning. Our economy remains attractive to investors. Our country will remain true to its alliances. And our people will fully and finally benefit from the Schengen arrangements. I also look forward with confidence to Romania's cooperation with the new United States administration. We have just signed a procurement contract for new fighter jets, one of the biggest ever procurement orders. And we anticipate successfully completing the visa-free agreement with the United States. For me, the most heartening moment of this year was to see how much Romanians were affected and were willing to offer assistance when the Republic of Moldova was facing severe political strains early in the year, and the subsequent will of Moldova to provide moral support when we recently encountered electoral tensions. Similar challenges affected both countries equally. Genuine bonds are tested in crises, and our bonds across the River Prut remain truest. Romania remains strong and determined to be even stronger as a partner and friend to your nation. Thank you.